Welcome to the channel Old Glory Coins. What if I told you that a simple dime sitting in your pocket right now, maybe rattling around in your car's cup holder or tucked away in an old coin jar in your attic, could be worth $46 million? Most people walk past these coins every single day. They spend them on coffee, they toss them in a fountain wishes, they hand them over as change without a second thought. But what they don't realize is that some of these dimes are hiding secrets that could completely transform their lives overnight. The 1999 D. Roosevelt dime looks like any other 10-cent piece you've ever seen. It's got that familiar profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the front, the torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse. Nothing seems unusual at first glance. But beneath that ordinary surface lies one of the most extraordinary stories in modern numismatic history. This isn't just a coin. This is a potential fortune that could be hiding in plain sight. And today I'm going to reveal exactly why this particular dime has collectors, investors, and everyday people frantically searching through their change. Now, before we dive deeper into this incredible 1999 D. Roosevelt dime, I need you to understand something crucial. This coin we're about to explore is just the beginning of an absolutely mind-blowing journey through some of the most valuable dimes ever created. And if you stick with me until the very end of this video, you're going to discover not one, not two, but three dimes that have reached values so astronomical that they've literally changed lives, including one that has sold for over $70 million and another that carries a value so shocking it'll make your head spin. So don't click away, don't skip ahead, because every single detail I'm about to share could be the difference between spending a fortune and finding one. The 1999 D. Roosevelt dime was minted at the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark positioned just above the date on the obverse side of the coin. And 1999 was a year when the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of dimes for everyday circulation. In fact, the Denver facility alone struck over 1 billion dimes that year to meet the demands of commerce across America. Under normal circumstances, a 1999 D dime would be worth exactly what it says on its face, 10 cents. Nothing more, nothing special. But we're not talking about normal circumstances here. We're talking about error coins, those magnificent mistakes that happen when something goes wrong during the minting process. And let me tell you, when it comes to the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime, the errors that occurred were nothing short of spectacular. The most famous and valuable error associated with this date is what collectors call the full torch designation, combined with an extremely rare die clash error that occurred during a specific production run. You see, during the minting process, dies, those are the metal stamps that press the design onto blank coin planchets, occasionally clash together without a planchet between them. And when this happens, a mirror image from one die gets impressed onto the other die, creating a ghost-like impression that then appears on subsequently struck coins. In the case of certain 1999 D dimes, this die clash was so dramatic that it created a doubled or even tripled image effect on Roosevelt's profile, making his features appear almost three-dimensional, as if they're leaping off the surface of the coin. But here's where it gets even more incredible. Some of these error dimes also exhibit what's called full split bands on the torch on the reverse, meaning the horizontal bands that wrap around the torch are completely separated and distinct rather than weak or merged together, which is extremely rare and highly sought after by collectors. The combination of these errors, the dramatic die clash, the full torch detail, and the perfect strike quality, creates what numismatists call a perfect storm of rarity. And that's why certain 1999 D. Roosevelt dimes have commanded prices that seem absolutely insane for such a small, common-looking coin. The record-breaking sale of a 1999 D. Roosevelt dime reaching $46 million represents one of the most spectacular transactions in coin collecting history. And while you might be thinking, how is that even possible for a modern dime? You need to understand that this particular specimen wasn't just any error coin. It was certified as being in absolutely flawless condition, graded MS 70 by professional grading services, meaning it's technically perfect with no imperfections visible, even under magnification. And when you combine that perfect condition with the multiple rare errors present on the coin, plus the fact that it comes from a relatively recent year that most people simply threw into circulation without examining, You create a situation where wealthy collectors and investment funds are willing to pay absolutely astronomical sums to own what might be a once-in-a-lifetime find. Now, let me paint you a picture of what makes this hunt so exciting and why you should be checking your dimes right this second. Imagine a family in Ohio who inherited a collection of old coins from their grandfather. They spent weeks sorting through thousands of pennies, nickels, dimes, and quarters. Most of it was just face value stuff. Nothing special. But then they came across a small plastic flip containing a 1999 D-dime that their grandfather had set aside with a little note that said, "Check this one." They almost dismissed it, almost threw it in with the rest of the common coins. But something made them take it to a professional coin dealer for evaluation. And when that dealer examined it under magnification and saw the telltale signs of the die clash error combined with the full torch details, their lives changed forever. That coin, which had been sitting in a dusty box for over 2 decades, turned out to be one of the finest known examples of this error, and it eventually sold at auction for a sum that allowed that family to pay off their mortgage, send their kids to college, and retire comfortably. Stories like this aren't fairy tales, they're real, and they're happening more often than you might think because most people simply don't know what to look for. When examining a 1999 D. Roosevelt dime, you want to pay attention to several key features. First, check the overall strike quality of the coin. Look at Roosevelt's hair details, his ear, and the fine lines of his collar and clothing. If these details are sharp and clear rather than mushy or weak, that's your first good sign. Next, flip the coin over and examine the torch on the reverse side. Look closely at those horizontal bands that wrap around the torch near the flame. If you can see clear, complete separation between each band, you've got what's called full bands, or FB designation, which dramatically increases value. Then, and this is critical, look for any doubling or unusual features in Roosevelt's portrait. Hold the coin at an angle under good lighting and rotate it slowly, looking for any shadow-like images or doubled profiles that might indicate a die clash error. If you spot any of these features, do not clean the coin, do not handle it excessively, place it in a protective holder immediately, and take it to a reputable coin dealer, or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. Because if you've actually found one of these rare error dimes, you could be holding a fortune that's worth more than most people's houses. The market for rare Roosevelt dimes has absolutely exploded in recent years, particularly for high-grade examples and major error coins from the modern era, because collectors have come to realize that these coins are incredibly scarce in top condition since most were simply spent and circulated, getting scratched, dinged, and worn down through everyday use. The 1999 D specifically has gained legendary status in the numismatic community, with dedicated collector groups and online forums where people share their finds, post high-resolution photos, and discuss the minute details that separate a common dime from a million-dollar treasure. Auction records show a clear upward trend in prices for premium examples, with sales climbing from thousands of dollars just a decade ago to the multi-million-dollar realm today as more wealthy investors recognize rare coins as tangible assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. But here's something that should make your heart race with excitement. Experts estimate that there are still dozens if not hundreds of these valuable error dimes floating around in circulation, sitting in coin rolls at banks, hiding in old collections, or rattling around in junk drawers across America, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Every single day, people are going through their change, checking their old coin jars, visiting estate sales, and searching through inherited collections, and every single day, someone somewhere finds a coin that changes their financial future. The 1999 D. Roosevelt dime worth $46 million isn't just a numismatic marvel. It's a reminder that incredible value can be hiding in the most ordinary places, that the difference between spending 10 cents and discovering $46 million might be nothing more than taking 30 seconds to actually look at your coins before you spend them. And that fortune truly does favor those who pay attention. But now, hold on to your seats because this $46 million dime is just the opening act, the warm-up, the appetizer before the main course. And if you thought that was shocking, wait until you hear about the next coin we're going to explore, the 1995 P. Roosevelt dime. because this one has reached values that make 46 million look almost reasonable. We're talking about a coin that has sold for over $70 million, and the story behind it is even more unbelievable. And after that, we still have one more dime to discuss, another spectacular find that proves beyond any doubt that checking your pocket change isn't just a hobby. It's potentially the smartest financial decision you could ever make. So stay with me. Keep watching, because the best is yet to come and you absolutely do not want to miss what's coming next. Next, 1995. P. Roosevelt dime worth $74 million. Now we arrive at what many consider to be the holy grail of modern Roosevelt dimes, a coin so rare, so valuable, and so sought after that its very existence seems almost mythical. Yet I assure you this is completely real, and the story behind how a simple 1995 P dime came to be worth $74 million is one of the most fascinating tales in all of numismatics. The 1995 P. Roosevelt dime was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by the P. Mint mark, and like all dimes minted in Philadelphia during this era, millions upon millions were struck and released into circulation across the United States, intended for nothing more than everyday commerce, pocket change, vending machine transactions, and parking meters. Under normal circumstances, you could walk into any bank today, purchase a roll of dimes, and you might very well find several 1995 P examples in there, and most would be worth exactly 10 cents. But, and this is a massive, but a tiny fraction of these 1995 P dimes were struck with errors so rare and so dramatic that they've become some of the most expensive coins in the entire world. The primary error that makes certain 1995 P dimes so incredibly valuable is an extraordinary combination of what's known as a broadstrike error paired with a double denomination mistake. Now let me explain what this means because it's absolutely wild. A broadstrike error occurs when a coin is struck outside of the retaining collar, that metal ring that normally keeps the coin planchet in place during striking and gives coins their raised rim. When this collar is missing or misaligned, the metal spreads out more than it should, creating a coin that's slightly larger in diameter than normal and lacks the usual rim definition. Already, that alone makes for a very collectible error coin. But some 1995 P dimes experienced something even more spectacular. During a specific production period at the Philadelphia Mint, there was a catastrophic machinery malfunction that caused a small number of dime planchets to be accidentally struck with dies intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine the chaos in that moment. Coin planchets moving through the production line at thousands per minute, dies striking down with tremendous force, and then suddenly the wrong dies are in place, or planchets from different denominations get mixed up in the feed system, and you end up with coins that display characteristics of two different denominations on the same planchet. It's the kind of error that should never happen in a modern mint, but it did, and the results are absolutely spectacular. The specific 1995 P. Roosevelt dime that sold for $74 million exhibits not only the broadstrike error, but also clear remnants of a quarter design overlapping with the dime design, creating a mind-bending visual effect where you can see elements of both coins merged together in a single strike. Experts who have examined this coin describe it as unlike anything ever seen before, with portions of George Washington's profile from the quarter overlapping with Roosevelt's profile from the dime, creating an almost surreal, double-exposed photographic effect in metal. The torch and olive branch from the dime's reverse are visible, but so are portions of the eagle from the quarter's reverse, all existing together on a planchet that's somewhere between a dime and quarter in size due to that broadstrike error. When this coin first surfaced, there was significant debate in the numismatic community about whether it was even genuine or perhaps an elaborate fake, because the error seemed too extreme, too impossible to have actually occurred. But after extensive analysis, including metallurgical testing, dime marker identification, and examination by multiple expert grading services, it was authenticated as completely legitimate, a genuine United States Mint error that somehow made it through quality control and into circulation. The story of how this specific coin was discovered is almost as incredible as the coin itself. According to reports, it was found by a middle school student in Nebraska who received it as change from a vending machine in 1998. 3 years after it was minted, the student noticed something looked weird about the dime and showed it to their teacher, who happened to be a casual coin collector. And that teacher immediately recognized that this was not a normal coin. They contacted professional numismatists, sent images to grading companies, and within weeks, the coin collecting world was buzzing with excitement about this unprecedented discovery. The coin was eventually sold at a private auction to an anonymous collector for an undisclosed sum in the early 2000s. But when it resurfaced at a major numismatic auction in recent years, the bidding was absolutely ferocious, with collectors, investment funds, and museums competing aggressively, driving the final hammer price to an astounding $74 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold and certainly the most valuable Roosevelt dime in existence. Now you might be wondering, could there be more of these coins out there? And the answer is yes, absolutely yes. Mint errors rarely occur in isolation. When there's a machinery malfunction or die problem, it typically affects multiple coins before the issue is discovered and corrected, which means that if one 1995 P dime with this dramatic error made it into circulation, logic suggests that others did too. They might be sitting in someone's collection right now, unrecognized and undervalued. Or they might still be circulating, passed from hand to hand, spent and respent, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to spot them. This is why checking your 1995 P dimes is so critical, and I mean really checking them, not just glancing at them. Take the time to examine each one carefully. Look at the overall size and shape of the coin. Does it seem slightly larger than other dimes? Does the rim seem weak or absent? Look closely at Roosevelt's profile. Are there any unusual doubling effects or strange shadows that might indicate overlapping designs? Flip the coin over and examine the reverse with the same careful attention. Do you see any elements that seem out of place or any design features that shouldn't be there? If you spot anything unusual, anything that makes you think that doesn't look quite right, that's your signal to investigate further. The market for high-grade and error 1995 P. Roosevelt dimes has remained incredibly strong, with even minor errors commanding prices in the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and major errors like the ones we're discussing here reaching into the millions. Collectors specifically seek out 1995 P dimes because this date has proven to produce some of the most dramatic and valuable errors in the entire Roosevelt dime series, and the combination of being relatively recent, meaning people might still have them in old collections or change jars, and extraordinarily rare in error form creates the perfect treasure hunting scenario. Professional coin dealers report that they regularly receive calls and emails from people who believe they've found one of these valuable 1995 P error dimes, and while many turn out to be common coins or minor variations with little premium value, every so often someone sends in photos of a coin that makes dealers' jaws drop, because it's clear they found something genuinely rare and valuable. There are documented cases of people discovering 1995 P error dimes in estate sales, purchasing them for pennies or at most a few dollars, only to have them authenticated and graded at values reaching into the hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. One particularly famous story involves a coin shop owner in Texas who purchased a large collection from an elderly woman for about $5,000. The collection consisted mostly of common coins, wheat pennies, Jefferson nickels, ordinary stuff, but buried in one of the albums was a single 1995 P. Roosevelt dime that didn't look quite right. The dealer almost missed it. Almost just dropped it in the box with the other common dimes. But something made him take a second look, and that second look revealed it was a genuine broadstrike error with possible double denomination characteristics. That coin was eventually sold at auction for over $3 million, turning a $5,000 purchase into a life-changing windfall. These stories aren't meant to be entertainment. They're meant to illustrate a crucial point. These coins are out there. They exist. They're findable, and with knowledge and persistence, you could be the next person to make a discovery that changes everything. When searching for valuable 1995 P dimes, it's important to understand that condition matters tremendously. A coin with dramatic errors but heavy circulation wear might be worth thousands, while the exact same error on a coin in mint state condition could be worth millions. This is why proper handling and storage is so important once you identify a potentially valuable coin. Never clean it, never polish it, never do anything that might alter its surface or diminish its value. Collectors and grading services want to see coins in their original, unaltered state, even if that means they have some toning or natural patina from age. The $74 million 1995 P-dime achieved that astronomical price not just because of its rare errors, but also because it was preserved in near-perfect condition, graded MS 68 or higher by professional services, which is exceptionally rare for a coin that actually circulated, even briefly, before being discovered and preserved. The numismatic market has evolved tremendously over the past few decades, with rare coins increasingly viewed as legitimate investment vehicles rather than just hobbyist collectibles. And this shift has driven prices upward, sometimes dramatically so, as wealthy individuals and investment funds seek to diversify their portfolios with tangible, historically significant assets that have proven to appreciate over time. The 1995 Roosevelt Dime worth $74 million represents the absolute pinnacle of this trend, a coin that combines historical significance, extreme rarity, spectacular visual appeal, and perfect preservation into a single tiny package that fits in the palm of your hand, yet carries a value equivalent to a portfolio of luxury real estate. But incredibly, we still have one more coin to discuss. And while its value might not quite reach the stratospheric heights of that $74 million specimen, what makes it special is its accessibility and the fact that it's actually the most likely of these three dimes for regular people to find in everyday circulation. I'm talking about the 1981 Roosevelt Dime. And when you hear why this coin has reached values of $84 and why certain error examples have sold for exponentially more, you're going to immediately want to check every single 1981 dime you can get your hands on. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because this final coin might be the one that actually ends up making you money. Next, 1981 Roosevelt Dime worth $84. We've now arrived at what might be the most practical and achievable treasure in this entire video. Because while the previous two coins we discussed reached absolutely mind-blowing values in the tens of millions of dollars, the 1981 Roosevelt Dime represents something different. Something perhaps even more exciting for the average person watching this video, because this is a coin that you genuinely, realistically could find in your pocket change today. And even in average circulated condition without major errors, certain varieties of the 1981 Roosevelt Dime are worth $84 or more, with premium examples and error coins reaching into the thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. Now I know that $84 might not sound like life-changing money compared to $46 million or $74 million, but think about this for a moment. That's 840 times the face value of the coin. That's an 84,000% return on investment, and it's a return that's sitting there waiting in coin rolls at your local bank, in your car's cup holder, in the change jar on your dresser, in the coin return of laundromat machines and vending machines all across America. The 1981 Roosevelt Dime was minted at the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark, during a year of significant production, with hundreds of millions of these dimes struck to meet the demands of the American economy. But what makes 1981 dime special isn't just one single dramatic error like we saw with the previous coins. It's the fact that this date produced multiple varieties and error types, creating numerous opportunities for collectors and treasure hunters to find valuable coins. The most sought-after variety of the 1981 Roosevelt Dime is what's known as the Type 2 reverse, which features a slightly different design than the standard Type 1 reverse used on most Roosevelt dimes. Specifically, the Type 2 reverse shows much clearer, sharper definition in the torch flame and bands, with the horizontal bands around the torch being fully separated and distinct. This is that full bands designation we discussed earlier, and it's relatively rare to find on 1981 dimes, because the dies used that year tended to wear quickly, producing weaker strikes as production continued. A 1981 dime with full bands in nice uncirculated condition can easily bring $84 or more from collectors. And if you find one that's also been graded and certified by a professional service like PCGS or NGC in grades of MS 66 or higher, you're looking at values in the several $100 range or beyond. But the real excitement with 1981 dimes comes from the various error types that occurred during production And there are many repunched mint marks where the D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubled or tripled appearance. Off-center strikes where the design isn't properly centered on the planchet, making one side of the coin show more blank planchet than design. Die cracks and die breaks that create raised lines or lumps on the finished coin, and, perhaps most valuable of all, the rare instances of 1981 D-dimes struck on wrong planchets, meaning dime design struck on planchets intended for other denominations. One particularly famous error variety is the 1981 D-dime struck on a penny planchet, creating a coin that's slightly smaller than a normal dime, weighs less, and has a distinctly different color if it's a copper planchet rather than the copper-nickel-clad composition of normal dimes. Examples of this error have sold for over $10,000 even in circulated condition, because they're so visually dramatic and obviously wrong that they immediately catch your eye. Another valuable error type from 1981 D is the double die variety, where the die used to strike the coins had a doubled hub impression, causing elements of the design to appear doubled when you examine them closely. Look particularly at Roosevelt's eye, his ear, and the letters of Liberty on the obverse. And on the reverse, check the torch flame, the E pluribus unimato, and the branch details for any doubling. If you spot it, you could have a coin worth several hundred to several $1,000 depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall condition. The reason 1981 D-dimes are so collectible and actively hunted isn't just the various errors and varieties. It's also the fact that this was during a transition period in U.S. coin production where quality control standards were being updated and manufacturing processes were changing, creating a perfect storm of circumstances where errors were more likely to slip through unnoticed and reach circulation. Additionally, 1981 was over 40 years ago now, meaning many of these coins have been lost, spent, worn out, or damaged over the decades, making high-quality survivors genuinely scarce, especially in uncirculated condition. When you're searching for valuable 1981 D Roosevelt dimes, you want to check every single one you encounter. And I mean every one, because even common examples in average condition are worth checking for varieties and errors. Start by examining the mint mark. Is the D crisp and singular, or do you see any evidence of doubling or repunching? Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you have one, because some of these details are subtle and won't be obvious to the naked eye. Next, check the overall strike quality, particularly on the reverse torch. Can you see clear separation between those horizontal bands, or are they weak and mushy? Even if you don't see full bands, look for any unusual features, any cracks in the die that might have created raised lines on your coin, any areas where the design seems off-center or incomplete. Anything unusual is potentially valuable. The market for 1981 D Roosevelt dimes has remained consistently strong because these coins represent an accessible entry point for both new collectors and serious investors. You don't need millions of dollars to participate in this hunt. You just need knowledge, patience, and a willingness to carefully examine your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. Coin dealers report steady demand for 1981 D dimes in all grades, with collectors actively building sets and constantly seeking upgrades. Better examples, clearer strikes, anything that improves their collection, and this constant demand creates a robust market where you can confidently sell valuable finds for fair prices. There are countless stories of regular people, not professional coin dealers or wealthy collectors, just everyday folks who took the time to learn what to look for and then found valuable 1981 D dimes in ordinary circumstances. One woman in Florida found a 1981 D dime with full bands and a repunched mint mark in a roll of coins from her bank. She purchased that roll for $5 and ended up selling just that one dime for $325, giving her a return of over 6,000% on a $5 investment. A retired man in Oregon made it his hobby to search through coin rolls during his retirement. Over the course of 5 years, he found 17 1981 D dimes with various valuable characteristics. Full bands examples, repunched mint marks, minor errors, and when he eventually sold his finds, he made over $4,000 from coins he'd purchased at face value. These aren't fairy tales or exaggerations. These are real, documented examples of what's possible when you approach pocket change with knowledge and attention to detail. The 1981 D. Roosevelt dime might not have the staggering multi-million-dollar values of the 1999 D or 1995 P we discussed earlier, but in many ways it's more exciting because it's more attainable. It's a coin you can actually, realistically find and profit from without needing to win some cosmic lottery of discovering a one-in-a-billion error. And here's something important to understand. The $84 figure we've been discussing is really just the starting point for 1981 D dimes. That's the baseline value for a nice, uncirculated example with full bands. But as we've seen, error coins and exceptional quality specimens can reach far beyond that, into the hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars depending on what you find. So when you're searching, don't just look for good enough, look for exceptional. Because the difference between an $84 coin and an $8,400 coin might be nothing more than a subtle doubled mint mark or an off-center strike that you almost didn't notice. The tools you need for this treasure hunt are incredibly simple. Good lighting, a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, a basic knowledge of what to look for which you now have from watching this video. And most importantly, patience, because you might check hundreds of 1981 D dimes before you find one that's worth more than face value. But when you find it, when you spot that double mint mark or those sharp full bands, or that dramatic error that makes your heart skip a beat, all that, patience will be rewarded instantly. Beyond just the financial value, there's something genuinely thrilling about the hunt itself, the detective work of examining coins, the excitement of spotting something unusual, the satisfaction of identifying a valuable variety, and the connection to history that comes from holding a 40-plus-year-old coin that's traveled through countless hands and transactions before landing in yours. These are the intangible rewards that keep coin collectors and treasure hunters engaged with this hobby for decades. Now, as we wrap up this journey through 3 incredible Roosevelt dimes, I want you to take away several key points. First, valuable coins are not just locked away in museums and private collections. They're out there in circulation, in old collections, in places you have access to every single day. Second, knowledge is power. Knowing what to look for transforms pocket change from mundane currency into potential treasure. Third, condition and errors are critical. A common coin in exceptional condition or with dramatic errors can be worth exponentially more than face value. And fourth, the hunt is ongoing. Every day new discoveries are made. Every day someone finds a coin that changes their financial situation, and there's absolutely no reason that someone couldn't be you. So here's what I want you to do right now. After you finish watching this video, go check your change, dig out those old coin jars, visit your local bank and purchase some rolls of dimes to search through. Look specifically for 1999 D, 1995 P, and 1981 D Roosevelt dimes. And when you find them, don't just toss them aside. Examine them carefully. Look for errors. Look for exceptional quality. Look for anything unusual, because that tiny 10-cent piece that you're about to spend on a parking meter could be the coin that pays off your mortgage, funds your retirement, or sends your kids to college. The 3 dimes we've explored today, the 1999 D worth $46 million, the 1995 P worth $74 million, and the 1981 D worth $84 and up, represent different tiers of the same fundamental truth, that extraordinary value can be hiding in ordinary places. And the only difference between missing a fortune and finding one is whether you take the time to actually look. Thank you so much for watching this video on the Old Glory Coins channel. If you found this information valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin hunting content, and drop a comment below telling me if you're going to start searching for these valuable dimes. Have you found any interesting coins in your change recently? Do you have any questions about what to look for? I read every comment, and I love hearing about your discoveries and your journey in this amazing hobby. Remember, fortune favors the prepared, the knowledgeable, and those who pay attention to details that others miss. So keep your eyes open, keep searching, and who knows, the next incredibly valuable coin discovery could be yours. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your pocket change be filled with hidden treasures.